Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 5 of Just Your Brain. As you know, Just Your Brain was created with the purpose to make you think outside of the box. No comments will be deleted, no reposts will be flagged as copyright, and no edits will be infringements. Today, here in the beautiful city of Rovigo, as you can see, and we will not be smoking a cigar, we will not be drinking either, just as a sign of respect for the subject that we're going to be discussing today, which is going to be religion. So I currently do not describe myself under any specific religion, but I do not describe myself as an atheist either. But in my all ways of describing myself as a Catholic or evangelic, smoke is not something I will have normally be allowed to do. So I will just avoid it today, and also we will avoid alcohol. Alcohol. I could have maybe taken some wine, but let's just keep it clean and simple, right? Discussing a topic so delicate as religion, I was starting to think it was a bad idea. Was starting to think that it was maybe better to speak about another subject because, of course, a lot of people can get triggered by the things I say, and a lot of people um, will not think the same way that I do. But here we are, of course, as always, confronting our fears, confronting the things that we're not comfortable to do, because that's the way, the path of growth. We have to grow every day. I think that we have only one life and that we have to maximize everything that comes out of it. And one of the ways to do it is to confront our fears and confront the things that make us feel uncomfortable and that allow us to grow. But that's not today's topic. Today's topic is religion. Last episode, I actually told a little bit of my story regarding my mother and some situations, but I think that I went too far with my story. So today, I will keep it simple. I will give you the short version of the story. I grew up as a Christian Catholic. So my family was Catholic. We used to go to church every Sunday, almost every Sunday. Then my family decided to change. They became from Christian, then they became evangelics, and we did that switch, right? We stopped believing in Maria and in the also in the sign of the cross and many other things that the evangelics do not believe in, but the Catholics do believe in. Then, after I became evangelic, by my own, I started to study Buddhism because I actually went to a really really tough period of my life when I finished school, and I had many inner struggles, included suicidal thoughts and many other things. So I needed to find peace within, and the way that was able to find peace within was with Buddhism. After Buddhism, I actually studied the Satanic Bible, which is something that most people will be afraid to talk about, or will be afraid to even pronounce. But I was curious, so I went and I studied the Satanic Bible also by Anton LaVey. So I read that book entirely. Then I came to Italy and I studied for 8 months with Jehovah Witnesses. So I also have it was from 8 months to a year. It was I don't know the exact range of time that I studied with them, but it was from 8 months to a year. So that's my spiritual journey, if you want to call it that way. Right now, I will mostly say I'm between Buddhism and Catholicism. I'm right there in the middle. I don't have an exact, like I said before, I don't have an exact title to describe myself in this moment when it comes to religion. But I do believe and I do guide my life by a lot of Buddhism teachings, and I do believe in Jesus firmly also. So I do guide my life also for when it comes to Catholicism. I guide my life also how I think Jesus will like me to guide my life. Not entirely as Catholicism explains it, but I do some of the things that they have teach me. I still apply them today. But what I wanted to tell mostly about today is not regarding Catholicism, it's not regarding evangelism, is the idea of God itself. I wanted I wanted to explore more this idea with you guys. For the ones that are already part of a specific religion, this is by no mean something that you should take as an insult. I'm just trying to express myself freely, like I like to say often. So, for me, when in the last period, when I started to think more about God and what is God for me personally, um, I used to relate this idea to Jesus, right? Because Jesus, the Son, the Father, part of the everything. But there was something that was off for me, and that something that was off was this confusion regarding Catholicism and Buddhism. Because in Buddhism, you do not believe in a natural God. You are open actually to many beliefs, and I don't think that if you practice Buddhism and you say that you believe in certain gods, I don't think that people will tell you you're not practicing Buddhism the right way. I think that Buddhism is a lot more about inner liberation. It's about the acceptance of the things by the way they are, and the cleaning of the filter, which the filter that we use to analyze information, right? Which is really dirty most of the time. But with Buddhism, you can really clean it and you can start to see and process the information that comes to you in let's say the most natural way to do it, without attaching moral values or without attaching any kind of social aspects into each kind of judgment that you do. So the idea that I have about God now is a really particular idea. I haven't heard of it before, but the I want to start by dividing by presenting to you two different aspects. Number one is going to be the natural way things are, and number two is going to be how things are since the moment that you apply conscious memory, imagination, and many of the capabilities that we have as human beings. Why do I want to separate these two things and look at as the yin and the yang, the black and the white? Because when it comes to the natural way of things being, it works by cause and effect, right? There is a cause and then you have an effect. Everything normally works this way. The only way it doesn't work this way is since the moment that you apply consciousness to it. That consciousness comes to life, that you have a conscious being that has, in this case, it's not only instinctual, because instinct most of the times also work in cause and effect. You have a cause that might be the trigger. So if I am sitting right here and I see a lion coming towards me, that's the cause, that's the trigger that inside of me by instinct is going to make an effect, and that effect can be running, that effect can be in sometimes even fighting. It depends how my instincts are wired, right? So I'm not talking about not so much about um, beings that have life but are completely instinctual, because I think instincts, like I said before, follow the cause and effect. What I wanted to talk more about here is consciousness and memory and imagination. Having a really developed memory and a really developed imagination and having high levels of consciousness allows you to go outside of the rules of cause and effect, because what will normally be there are many variables, so you don't have like a fixed path. In animals, the way we understand animals is that if you make this way, if you make this sound, if you make this movement, they will receive the information, they will process it in a particular way. And this particular way doesn't vary that much if you are talking about the same species. But with human beings, you can say something to me in a particular way, and you can say in that same way to 100 more people, and each one of us is going to probably have a different reaction. That's going to be unique. That's going to be non-instinctual. It depends, of course, of the response times that you give them, because if the response time is instant, most of the times. Um, the response will be instinctual. But if the trigger that you create, they have time to think about it, analyze it, and give you an answer, the answer will most probably be different throughout all the people that you talk to, right? So having consciousness, memory, and imagination in a really developed way, in a really let's say amplified way, allows you to go outside of the cause and effect algorithm. And it's not in a total way, because I don't want to create confusion. It's not that now you don't need a cause to have to make an effect, because of course our system, even biologically, works by cause and effect. If I want to do something, um, the idea of doing that things is, if the thing first is the first thing that rises in my mind, and then you have all the electrical impulses that comes to the muscles, and then I start walking. Let's say I want to walk, the idea comes in, then my brain sends the signal to my legs, I start moving my legs. So you have the cause and effect even in our body biologically. But what I want to say is that the variables are so much that it doesn't behave the same way as in nature, right? Nature is more simpler. There are not that many variables in nature. At least, well, there are many variables in nature, but I think that you get what I'm trying to say. That consciousness multiplies the variables by so much that it becomes really hard to calculate what the outcome will be, right? So my idea of God starts with these two things, because I think that God in itself, let's say we have two hypotheses, right? The first one is that God created everything, and the second one will be that God was created by the everything, which at the end they might be the same thing, because it's complicated, because if the universe created God, then it should also mean that God created the universe, because being omnipresent, being omnipotent, and being able to experience existence itself could be called self-creation, and at the same time it could be called being created after the initial thing happened, right? So there is. I don't want to get that much so much into that topic. I want to keep it a little bit simpler. So let's say for a moment that it doesn't matter if God created everything of it, if the everything created God. But let's say that the first thing that came by was cause and effect. Let's say that he made sure that the laws of cause and effect were clear, and that the universe was able to balance itself, even though we know that the universe goes towards entropy, that the universe was able to balance itself with cause and effects. The planet, if it wasn't because of humans, would be much more balanced, right? Because the planet itself has the water cycle, has so many cycles, and each cycle is made in a way that it keeps replenishing the resources that it is being transformed, right? So the moment that the balance of the planet went, let's say, went in a bad direction, was when consciousness started to come and started to manipulate the resources that were in it. Because, like I said before, we do not follow the simple rules that are in nature's cause and effect. We multiply the variables, and in the way of multiplying our variables, nature has no way to answer to the way we are engaging with it. So God made sure that the way that the cause and effect works was in place. So you have nature, you have the universe, everything works perfectly. Stars explode to spread their minerals, their rocks in the universe to give a space to new stars. We have the, like I said before, the water cycle inside the planet. We have so many cycles that are completely perfect without any divine or conscious intervention. But then life manifested itself, and I'm talking about intelligent life, not instinctual life. We are talking about the life that is able, like I say, high level of consciousness, high level of memory, high level of imagination. This life manifested. So now you have so many variables, and nature cannot keep up with it. So I really don't think that God intervenes in the natural balance of things, in the natural cycles, because there's no need. That's already perfect. That already works by itself. What my idea of God started to become a little bit of time ago, or has been like 3 to 4 months since I started to have this idea that God actually balances conscious life, because the only thing that needs intervenance in the that needs a divine intervention is conscious life, because there are so many variables that can lead to the destruction of creation itself. Let's say a civilization advanced enough to manipulate energy, antimatter, or any kind of or let's say any kind of matter or energy form in the universe could in fact destroy existence itself. So the only place that God needs to intervene in is not in the natural ways that things behave, because like I said before, I think that's already perfect. Perfect is a really delicate word, but I will use it this time. I think it is already perfect. But I think that God intervenes when it comes to conscious life. So we have, I think that this we have seen it many times in history. You can recall to so many times in history where in the right time, in the right moment, the right person appears and changes everything. We have we have Jesus, we have Nelson Mandela, right time, right moment. Even when fighting the Nazis, the guy I was watching the film the other day, the Imitation Game. I think it is Alan Walker. I don't remember if his name is Alan, but I think that his last name is Walker, and that's where when we created the Walker machines, I think that they are called that way. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's also a person that was in the right place in the right time. If it wasn't for him, so many things would have been different. So throughout history, we have always had so many persons that were born in the right place in the right time and were able to solve an issue. Holy shit, this flies today bother me. Okay, so we have so many persons that were born in the right place and the right times and were able to solve a major issue in the moment that maybe nobody would have come to a solution for the problem, but they were there. And this is for me not a coincidence, because if it wasn't for the appearance of those persons, the future would have been totally different. And the balance of good and bad, even though good and bad is a really broad topic and it cannot be discussed only it cannot be simplified so much. The balance between destruction and creation, let's say destruction and creation, will have been broken. We will have had way more destruction than we will have had creation. And of course, in a long period of time, this takes us to an unbalance in any particular process. If you have more destruction than creation, if that's not the main objective of the process, like for examples, beings, human beings, animals, or whatever being that has life, has not a purpose, because purpose is not the word, but it naturally goes toward reproduction, right? Reproduction is a natural thing for anything that has life. It wants to reproduce. Well, not everything, because I was watching the other day a video of pandas, and it seems like they don't want to reproduce, and which was really funny, by the way. But let's say that in most of the cases, whatever has life wants to reproduce. And if you switch that to more destruction in, say, in an ecosystem, any species, if they destroy more than they create, it goes against their natural balance, because they are not able to reproduce or they want to reproduce, and of course they are dying, so it goes against their natural balance. So I think that this is the moment when God intervenes, when there is a major conscious life that goes outside of instincts and is causing harm in the natural balance of the universe. In that case, I think that God intervenes and he makes sure that the right person is sent in the right moment, and that things can go back to balance. And if in most of the cases we have always had this one person, and I think it will always be like that. I think that it doesn't matter what happens, we will always have this one person that comes out at the right moment and the right time and fixes everything and balances everything. And this is something that I find really really interesting, because most of the people will think about God as the person that has to balance everything, but I think that there are things that are already balanced, that are already perfect. And in that we have the natural cycles of the universe, and the natural cycles that we have on earth. And we also have instinctual beings. I think that also instinctual beings are really really balanced in a really good way. I'm sorry, because because the process which helped them to create their instinct was a really really natural process. It was a process that took many many years, if not I don't want to say millions, but thousands and thousands of years, for them to get to that point where their instincts behave that way, right? So their instinct had a really natural evolution. The only way you go outside of the natural evolution of things, like I have said many things many times in this video, is since in the moment that you have a really high level of consciousness, imagination, and memory. And I think that that's where God intervened. So this is the idea of God that I have been manifesting in this period. And I wanted to put it aside in the internet to see what other people think about it, to see, maybe I haven't made any research about it, because I haven't. And so maybe somebody have already talked about this in the past. I really don't know about this, because we have had so many philosophers. I really don't know what all of them have talked about, but this is something that I came that an idea that I had by myself. God being the being that balances conscious life, conscious intelligent life with high levels of imagination, intelligence, and memory. And because like I said, and like I will finish saying also, nature itself is really balanced. So I really don't think that God has so much to do there. So guys, let me know what you think. I am really really interested in seeing really different opinions regarding this topic. Like I say many times, this video was not meant to insult anybody. um, it's just me trying to freely express myself, which you can do too in the comment section. That's what that was it for the fifth episode of User Brain. So tell me, what do you think? Is God the regulator of conscious life, or do you think he does way more?